Hey guys, Kenny here. Wanted to do a quick recap of today's trading session. I didn't have a chance to dive too deep today. I had a lot of other things going on, but I think it'll be helpful for us to kind of recap the the trading session that transpired during the day today. And so let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is the trading session from today, which is what is today? August the 6th, which is Thursday. And so just kind of taking a look at the chart over the past couple of days. This is the 15-minute time frame, which is the time frame that I typically am looking at when I'm evaluating opportunities in the market. So yesterday's session overnight kind of operated like this and taking a look at the volume profile from the session that started on Tuesday and went into Wednesday. So the overnight session showed significant volume. 68% of the participation was in this yellow and blue area heading into yesterday's trading session. As we approached yesterday's New York session, we saw that there was a trend up here, ultimately led to this place where I marked out a swing high, which should serve as a potential place for liquidity at some point in the future. And then at the start of the market, man, we saw kind of a push down, and then after this initiative sell back down into this area right here, we then saw a lot of balance acceptance in this region right here, and then at the end towards the latter part, the last 15 minutes of the New York session, we saw this candle, this red candle right here. Let's see if I can highlight it. This red candle right there was the push down, initiative push down. And then after we got to 4 o'clock, we saw a retracement back into this area of value. And so that's kind of how we ended yesterday's session. And then yesterday evening during the PM session, we saw, kind of this operation from this perspective, right? So we saw a small push up, and then we saw a retracement. We saw this push up, and then we saw this chop in this area right here. Push up, down, push up, put down outside of this high time frame acceptance area. Then we push back inside of it, outside, up, and then we concluded this morning's overnight session, heading into the New York session around here. And so, with that being the case, this is where we started off the New York session at 9:30, which was around on the ES, it was 77.51 and some change. And then at that point, we saw a push back up into this high time frame acceptance area. And then we saw this push to the downside. And that concluded the initiative push down to the downside. And then we found some acceptance in this area right here. And then we kind of just operated in this area for the remaining part of the session. And so when I look at the market, of course, I am a auction market theory guy. So I'm looking at, areas of balance and then looking for the transition into imbalance whenever I'm looking at opportunities. So this is on the 15-minute chart. So we would consider this kind of the value area, with this being the upper end of it, and this being the lower end of the overnight session. And so as price was kind of, operating in between, the approach to dealing with this particular, balance area, set from a setup perspective, is that once we hit to the upper part of this range, which was from here, and this area served as a swing high. And once we get into this range, we sell the tops or fade the tops, and then we buy the bottom. So once we get into the lower range, and so sometimes you'll see me do this once we have established kind of the range of sorts. I'll draw a rectangle of sorts there so that I don't get premature in my entries into, trying to trade the balance market. So I will do this, and I will put one at the top. I will put one at the bottom. I will smack my hand to not engage into any trades until we approach this particular area on the bottom or the top. If you get caught in this, you can sometimes get chopped up, which a lot of people do. So you have to be very patient. Whenever you have a balanced market, you fade the top, you buy the bottoms, but you have to be very disciplined in how you approach the market. Otherwise, you can find yourself getting caught up in this mix right here, and sometimes you'll get chopped up. So, we want to, realistically look at opportunities to take trades. So this would have been one of the buy the bottoms. Right here, it wouldn't have been. You could have gotten chopped up there. This would have been another opportunity once we touched down in that range. Once we touched into the zone here. Once we got to the lower part of the zone here, those are opportunities to buy. And then ultimately from this point right here would have been a sale. We could have gotten invested here, but this would have been the other opportunity to engage the market based off of this zone to the upside, this zone to the downside. So that's the overnight session. We then transitioned into the New York session. We saw a push back up into value of the high time frame value area, and then we pushed down. We tried to retest, and then we saw the flush, which is, this would have been the opportunity to get engaged right here, and you would have seen a nice little return because you could have taken profit somewhere in this area down here. So right, that would have been the first trade of today using my approach. And then after that, we just saw kind of this, this acceptance area. And once again, like I mentioned before, this would have been a chance once we got the area to kind of settle in. This would have been the initial part of the zone to the upside. And then I would have just been trading off of that for the remaining part of the day. But typically, I'm not trading beyond 11:30 a.m. So I wouldn't have gotten involved in this. I would have caught this flush, hopefully. Um, but if not, then I would have just been out of trading for the day and just preparing for either to trade the evening session or whatever the case may be. But as I mentioned before, when you have this kind of balanced area set up, you then kind of draw out a zone to the lower side, and that becomes your zone of interest. When price revisits, you're looking for a change in order flow. You're looking for a visual change in the form of a hammer candle or something like that to dictate that price is changing, that the direction is changing, and then you could have caught maybe one or two out of this particular setup as well. So that's what I do from a day in and day out perspective. We have already kicked off the session for the evening, the PM session, and so I'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the evening. I probably won't trade this evening. I'll kind of let my mental my brain, rest a little bit because I've been going hard this week. Had a very successful week, and that's a good thing. But I also have to call out the fact that I'm actually a little mentally drained. So that's another piece of learning yourself and to make sure that you're not trading when you're not fully capable of mentally processing information. Because if you're not aware of what's going on, then you'll find yourself making bad decisions. So at this point, this is what we're looking at, right? We're seeing this zone right here be our balance area, and so we will look to fade the tops and buy the bottoms until further notice, until we get a breakout. And then once we get a breakout, I'm looking for a retest and then a redirection, either to the upside or if we do the same thing to the downside. So that's it. That's all we have for today from a kind of a market recap perspective. I can definitely do some of the other stocks as well, but we will allow this to serve as the primary thing that I'm reading because I'm primarily an ES trader. So that's the markets I'm typically going to recap. So hopefully this makes sense to you. And as always, I would love to have you join me in my community, the Smart Trader Framework community. The link is in the bio or in the description or the bio. And as always, look forward to sharing with you again soon. All right, take care.